Now, this stems from a case back in 2003. A woman and two teens, now she agreed to sex with one of them, kind of convoluted here, but stick with me. She changed her mind, though, during sex, and he stopped after 5 seconds or so. The judge saw that as rape. Let's focus in now on the broader ruling here, the broader implications. What does that mean for all consenting adults who have sex? And one changed their mind in the middle. Is that rape? Here to talk about it, attorneys Julia Morrow and Mark Eiglarsh. Thanks for joining us, both of you. It's a tough one here. Real quick from both of you, is this some precedent-setting case that we could see a lot of rape cases coming through the courts because of it? Real quick, both of you.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly in Maryland, we're going to see it, although there's only 7 states across the entire United States who ascribe to such a law. But in Maryland, sure, it's going to open up the floodgates.
Mark?
And my answer is, I hope not. We're going to have, this is the 8th state now that says that a woman can withdraw consent. And while I'm in favor of it, it needs to be used in the most limited of circumstances by prosecutors and or law enforcement.
Okay, Mark, let's start with you. I mean, I am with you in the sense that if a woman says stop, stop, it's her body. But the 5-second rule, and you get into a real gray area, don't you? Isn't it going to be tough?
Absolutely. Absolutely. As a former prosecutor, as a criminal defense attorney, I think this law should not be used often. Again, it should be a set of facts where you go, oh, okay, I got it. That makes sense to me. But it should not be used in a case where a guy fails to stop on a dime or when the words are ambiguous. But in other scenarios where it's clear that this was no, 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 and there was time, those cases should be prosecuted.
Hey, Julia, is that your fear? I mean, let me get the challenge back to you, and I'm sure you agree with this. A woman's body's her body. If she says no, you got to stop, right?
Yeah, I do. I agree with that, Mike. But the bottom line is individuals need to take responsibility for their own actions, especially adults. You know, don't go home with a guy and get in bed with him and agree to start having sex with him and you know, all of a sudden change your mind and say it's rape. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You have to take responsibility for your own actions and in terms of putting yourself in that predicament. And let me just say this. Hold on, Mark. This law is literally climbing into bed with people and seeking to micromanage the entire sex experience. This is so incredibly dangerous. It's going to open up the floodgates for frivolous rape complaints. And I hear Mark when he says we should only use it in only the most clear and egregious circumstances. But that's not going to keep, you know, hordes of women who, you know, feel that they have a claim under this law from running to the police and making out rape complaints. And that's a problem.
What's your beef, Mark? Go ahead.
First of all, women who want to abuse the law can do it in any way. They can allege domestic violence. They do it now and claim that the man struck a woman when he didn't. They've got plenty of ways to really screw over someone if they want to by utilizing the law inappropriately. Whoa. That being said, an experience where a woman says no, and it's completely clear that experience, if he continues to go at her, is traumatizing, it is dehumanizing, and it's still her right to say no. Now, again, it has to be limited circumstances. I don't want to see the floodgates open. I would expect that prosecutors will use their common sense and know that they've got a tough shot in front of a jury where proof is beyond a reasonable doubt, and unless they got it, they can't go forward.
And you know what, Mark, you're right, but they didn't use their common sense in the baby case. That's the defendant's last name. 5 seconds.
I don't disagree with you on that.
5 seconds,
I don't disagree
they
with
didn't use it. And as much as we'd like to say that prosecutors and police are going to use their common sense, the reality is not everyone has common sense. They're not going to use it.
I don't disagree with you. There are the Mike Niffungs in the world. I understand that. But I'll tell you this. I don't believe that a guy can say, well, she said yes, and so my body just took over, and I could just keep going, no matter how painful, no matter how much she thinks I'm repulsive, no matter how much her mood changes. You know, that's going to happen.
Keep going and going and going. Obviously, that's rape. I hear you. But it's, of course, the gray areas, the 5 seconds, the 10 seconds, you know, the length of time it takes him to get out of the physical position to stop the act. That's where the problem comes in.
Yeah, what about that stopwatch factor, Mark? That's a good point.
No, I agree 100%. I said it cannot be used when the language is ambiguous or, okay, I say no, too late. No, I do not disagree with you. I don't think there's a jury in this country that could all unanimously say that is a criminal offense for which you should be stripped of your liberty to go to prison for. I don't think the prosecutor will bring that because I don't think there's a jury in this world that would convict someone. I don't agree with that.
Hey, Julia, let me get back to something you said. I was kind of surprised to hear you say it. I mean, yes, and I agree with you. Ladies, watch who you're taking home. But that doesn't mean that your body is theirs. At some point, if you want out, you should be able to say enough, right?
Mike, I agree. I am a firm believer that if a woman takes a guy home and she has no intention of having sex with him and just wants to do other things, too bad, buddy, suck it up. But if she agrees to the ultimate act and starts the act and engages in the act and all of a sudden says, no, I don't want to do it, should that guy have a felony conviction if he doesn't stop quick enough?
Should he be allowed to continue to thrust himself upon her and her say
real quick,
no,
both
no,
of you,
no?
Can common sense take over here and we can have a common sense ruling where it's not 5 seconds, but there's a reasonable amount of time? Or is that gray and we're done, and it's really not possible?
Well,
it's going to be fact sensitive, Mike. It's fact sensitive. A prosecutor needs to look at all the factors and really err, I think, on the side of the defendant. I don't think you bring a case unless it's clear.
Err on the side of caution. Julia, real quick, last word.
Last word is, I think this is outrageous, and yet one more point I want to raise is because of the broadened scope now of what could allegedly be the crime of rape, I think there's due process concerns now because laws have to put people on notice of what conduct is going to be criminalized. And here, because of the gray areas, the time watch issue, and all of the other issues in the initial consent, you know, this law could be found to be
beware. Everybody beware. That's the message.
Mark,
Everybody
Julia,
beware.
Good stuff.